We'll be closely watching Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene's budget today to see whether he sticks to a fiscal path he announced in his policy statement 4 months ago. In October last year, Nene pledged to reduce the rate of government spending to help close the gap between income and expenditure. Well, it's back to Francis at Parliament. No doubt, apart from the rating agencies, Francis, investors are keen to see what happens this afternoon.
Investors are closely watching this and they're hoping for this expected austerity budget, Devon, which is exactly what you're talking about, sort of capping spending, saying that we've overspent in recent years. We can't take on any more debt, so we're going to cap that spending, raise taxes possibly to bring in more money because we cannot continue. We're getting to a dangerous situation of debt and living beyond our means. Now, the Finance Minister does face two forces. That's the investor side. On the other side, we have labour movements. We have 1,000 people outside, Devon. So it's getting quite interesting in Parliament at the moment. We have about 1,000 people representing the United Front, and they're protesting against an austerity budget. They do not want the spending cuts. In fact, they are calling for more spending to help the poor. Now, the United Front, just to give you a little bit of background, it involves our former spy chief Ronnie Castrol's, NUMSA, the union that was kicked out of COSATU, and people are watching this new formation, also including Zaki Ahmad, the TAC, watching this new formation to see if it will become a political force. They are currently outside Parliament talking about their demands, which include more spending, free education, grants for the poor, and taxes for the rich. Now let's look a bit more at what investors are hoping for, and I'm now joined by Hassan Mutala from Oasis Asset Management. Great to have you with us, Hassan.
Thank you, Francis.
So outside we can hear the echoes against an austerity budget, but investors do want the austerity budget. Is that correct?
Sure. I think you're going to look at it, put it into perspective. Since 2009, government has actually had a very expansionary fiscal policy over this period, where you've had massive amount of spending coming through on the back of the financial crisis during 2008-2009. The result of that, however, has been that we've had a widening budget deficit. So currently this year the budget deficit is expected to be just over 4% and probably around that range still over the next few years. But very importantly as well, our debt levels has picked up very significantly. So if you look at debt to GDP, has picked up, and it's expected to be around 48%, which has moved up very significantly over the last 5 years. That obviously does put a bit of pressure in terms of obviously the overall government finances. Now, yes, on the expenditure side, it's unlikely that you're going to see any significant cuts. I think the minister did highlight in the midterm budget, and even the previous minister in last year's budget did focus on areas where they want to control a bit of costs, particularly around the government related. So your wage bill is a substantial amount, and I think that's an area where they're focusing on and trying to make sure that they want to maintain sort of an inflation related type of increase in that area. However, I think there are other areas within expenditure where they will be focusing on looking and trying to procurement in those areas to try and rein in and manage expenditure a lot better in that area. However, there are certain other expenditure, the capital items, be it infrastructure spending. That still remains a key area of focus, and it's important to this country. We've got to take into account that the supply side of the economy has been neglected for a number of years. If you look at the mining sector, the manufacturing sector, over the last 10 years in terms of contribution to GDP, has declined substantially. It requires investment, and it requires an area where we need to encourage investment in that area, which will create jobs and improve GDP growth.
So this is crowding in investment by creating roads and good facilities and bridges and making the flow of goods easier.
Exactly, you need that. So the likes of Transnet and the like need to continue obviously spending in key areas such as road, the logistics in general.
So there won't be cuts there. As long as I can remember, business has been saying, government keeps on promising to spend so much on infrastructure. It's part of the NDP. We need it. But it's been slow in coming. Do we want even more allocated to
that? I think we've had, obviously, I think last year was announced 847 billion over a 3-year period. Importantly, what we need to make sure that spending is taking place. Very importantly, it's taking place in an efficient manner and it's accountable. That's important. We need to see that coming through and being spent in an efficient manner, and then you have seen some improvement in the likes of transit and the like are spending. But very importantly, and this is an area which we're facing obviously substantial issues, is around the energy sector. Eskom's obviously facing a lot of pressure. Now, government has talked about, the President did announce in his State of Nation 24 billion being funding towards Eskom. We need actually an annual amount of money towards something more over a period of years to address that, because energy is a big issue.
I have to stop you there. Thank you so much for your analysis. And ahead of that austerity budget, the rand has been improving. So investors seem to be wanting this constraint that our finance minister hinted would be the main theme of this budget this year. Just a quick reminder, SMS us and we'll show your comments on the budget, on your expectations, on what our finance minister says a little bit later on screen. That SMS number 34767, and just put budget as your first word. Your comment follows 34767. We take a short break and we'll be back live from Parliament with more analysis ahead of that much anticipated budget speech from our finance minister a little bit later.